Hello there folks, welcome back to my YouTube channel, a place where I discuss different topics like spirituality, dream interpretation, and game analysis, other topics, and usually providing answers to different questions that people might ask me. Usually I answer or make videos as a response to thoughts and ideas, nudges from the universe that I get, or at rare times following certain interesting conversations that I might have with people on the few spiritual channels on Discord that I am, or with real life friends who happen to ask me something, and I give them an explanation. I say, hey, why not actually also share this with the whole world? So the topic of today's video would be the false idea of awakening. Not that awakening in itself is false, but there are so many people who believe in this idea that they are awake. Okay, they start off with a belief. Now a belief is nothing else than accepting something without a necessity for proof. So the point is, many people unfortunately are spending so much time, and they have ended up worshipping the mind so much that they have the impression that the mind is basically the apex, okay, in understanding, or the mind is the only way to understand things in life. Now, this is not something necessarily bad, but you see, the mind is basically the representative of your prison, okay? Because the mind gives you a certain sense of power, a certain sense of comfort when you know certain things. And there are so many people, okay, especially young people, who, get stuck in this idea, okay? There are so many people promoting this, new age spiritual movement. Why do you think this exists? This just exists as a new distraction, okay? Now, I'm not gonna argue that, angel numbers and all sorts of things like synchronicity would be a distraction, but in the end, there are again ways that prove you how much confirmation you're actually looking for, okay? Because so many people always ask outside, and when they are asked, when they see a question, there is that urge, that impulse to help others, okay? That comes usually from the mind, because in such times you should realize by now that not everyone's gonna make it. The so-called 5D shift in the 21st of December 2020 is said to be very powerful, and if people keep looking outside of themselves, okay, that's not basically awakening, okay? When you awaken, you realize that you don't need to help others if they don't ask for your help, okay? Because there will always be people masquerading as your friends, okay, as someone else said it. And the more you feed your mind with all sorts of things, the more it has not necessarily control over you, but the more ways it has to simply screw over you. Because there have been ancient minds that said very easily, the mind has thousands of layers to it, and the more you give them, okay, information, the more you feed these aspects of the mind. Now there comes a little problem, because you're giving it ammunition, okay? You're giving it ways to screw you around. That's not very good, because, you're giving your mind power and ways to screw you over, because you have to take your mind into account as a little bit of a narcissistic aspect, okay? It is the same way that, for example, Google works, okay? When you give a certain point of interest to the mind, the mind will simply use that. Now, why? Well, it will use this because it works exactly like, everything that functions in this world and is control bound, okay? Or it is bound to seek control in a certain way, not that it cannot be used otherwise, but take it like this. Ever used Google to find something and then that thing keeps popping up in your email feeds, right? In your ads, you're presented exactly those things that you're looking for. your mind is exactly like that. Think a bit about something. You think that it is very important towards you, so therefore it's just a thought. It's not necessarily something truly important. And then your intellect will basically work towards, prioritizing that. Because if you convince your mind that something is very important to you, then your intellect will even fight for that, okay? Now, fighting for something kind of makes you in a way controllable, because when you're capable of fighting for something, okay, you're capable of dying for something. Ever know those people who, they can't believe anything else? You know something is not like they know. You're trying to tell them, probably even desperately trying to convince them that things aren't like they think, but for some reason they simply seem to not listen to you. They're not interested in listening to you, and whatever is, they will simply feel like they will die for their own belief, okay? Now, there are a lot of such people, and many of them think they are somewhat awakened, okay? But there are ways to realize that you're basically not awakened, okay? And the first the first way of realizing that you're not actually fully awakened, okay? Because, well, awakening is something that happens in levels, okay? Don't take this like, you must be the, at the top, okay, to matter in this idea of awakening, okay? But the first way you can know, okay, if you are not pretending, because spirituality is something that happens regarding of how much you fast, how much you do, certain rituals and the such, okay? It really doesn't matter. Okay, those things, if you fast, if you take care of yourself, meditate and the such, these things can actually help, will actually help a lot. It will somewhat slowly hasten the process, because spirituality is something that can take, and usually takes, lifetimes, okay? And when the time is ready, you will have a spontaneous awakening, okay? Now, what that usually would mean is time flies much faster for you in that period. Something awkward can happen to you, like physically, okay? Now, what I mean by this is many people, when they've had their awakening, also ended up in hospitals, or, something great happened to them, okay? Now, it's not necessarily bound that it will, but one way to realize that you're still fussing around and, it's, not necessarily an awakening that you're having, is more like an impression of it, is if you're paying too much mind to your mind. If you're minding your mind too much, okay? If you are focusing too much on your mind, okay? And what I mean specifically in this is when you are doing things compulsively, specifically, okay? You are learning spirituality not because there is a flow within you that asks about that, okay? Because it is a compulsion. You must do this, you must do that, okay? That's your ego, trying to keep control, because as I said in a previous video, the greatest fear of the mind is realizing that you don't actually need it. And when you realize that you don't actually need your mind, it's just something that only wants your attention and will do literally everything possible to keep you distracted from your own self, from your own interior. You realize that basically the extension of your mind is the whole external world. The whole external world, our society, the way it's structured, it was structured by people, or whatever those are, okay, that can simply not, function outside of their mind. Because think about it, society has always been about control. It's just that we are realizing now, which is, much later, but it's all about control, okay? The mind simply cannot exist without control, because anytime you want to tell it something, it will always ask for something. Remember those friends, when I was a child, and, the such, you would tell something to people, and, especially those of your own age, and they are all something like, prove it, prove it, prove it. If you don't prove it, it doesn't exist. And, being someone who could feel certain things in a certain way, well, it was kind of hard to prove people something, especially when they say prove it, okay? They are slaves of their own mind, and you have to understand that, okay? Not everyone is made to necessarily ascend in this life, because they are still ascending to a certain level, okay? ascension happens to a certain level depending on how much you allow it. Okay, many people still cling to distractions. Why do you think there is an explosion of distractions? Okay, I mean, the news, they are pumping so much more fear. Movies, all sorts of sports events. Why do you think sports were legalized again? Up to a certain moment, they were simply no longer available. They were no longer needed, okay? Because of the cunt virus outbreak. Now, every one of those will actually have to get vaccinated and, microchipped and whatever. So the point about that is, well, if you're paying that much attention to that, pay attention to this because your mind will always will always want to distract you. Now, to understand your mind, okay, your mind is nothing else than a computer, okay, and just like any computer, it doesn't know anything, okay. So your subconscious mind, more importantly, okay, which is said to be the connection towards your soul, your subconscious mind will have one point, okay. Its core is just that of a computer. I was in the 11th grade when I was creating the foundations of what back then I called the cybernetic dimension, okay, which was basically the underlying aspects of the mind. Later on, I called that the, how to put it more exactly, the mind code. Okay, it's basically the code that allows your mind to work. Okay, now this code is something that is constantly being built. Okay, imagine one of those softwares in which you click certain stuff or certain actions pop up into the main window, let's say, and those actions pop up the code themselves. Okay, because when you want to do something, okay, all you have in your mind is just some actions. Okay, you don't you don't think like, okay, I'll be moving my hand here, my fingers, each and every pixel, let's say, each and every millimeter of the movement, okay? You don't have any of those. The body simply handles that, okay? The subconscious mind, the body, because the body has its own code and it executes it based on whatever is needed. So the point about this, is it something bad if you live subconsciously? Well, I cannot simply believe in good or bad, okay? But you have to understand that your mind only knows to execute code, okay? That code within it, it can only know how to trigger it. Is this something good or bad? Well, again, I can't say something is good or something is bad, okay? Full neutrality or as much neutrality as possible, okay? Because, well, why not? So, is that something good? Is that something bad? Again, no good, no bad, okay? So, the mind only knows to execute its own coding, okay? But the question is, which of that is its own coding? Because, you see, the subconscious mind only gathers code. And I was in the 9th grade when I started feeling some things, okay, which I called mind viruses, okay. Now you might probably wonder why, okay, but I knew there were some things, okay, very little things, unperceivable, okay, and these little things would have the purpose of infiltrating your mind and causing some sort of little havoc, okay, causing changes in your own mind thinking, okay, in your own way of perceiving the world, in your behavior, okay. That's why I call them mind viruses, little pesky aspects, okay. And well, in time I became, more knowledgeable of this in a way, not because I would read books, okay. So much of this information would suddenly pop into my mind as if I knew about it from, different other lifetimes maybe, because some people say that, hey, you know what? When you come into a certain life, you usually begin from where you left in a previous one. Now, I'm not too passionate about, past lives because, well, they might tell you some things. There might be some Akashic records and, knowledge, but you only have to open up in this world, okay? Because when you open up in this world towards who and what you are, that's basically the most important thing. Because as you do that, okay, as you wake up to your own potential, things will also open up towards you, just like I was back then. Do you think that in my ninth grade and 10th grade there was anyone to tell me about the cybernetic dimension and, mind viruses and the such? And anyone else, of my age, my other people, okay, they would just look at me as if I was some kind of alien. I actually had the nickname Alien for a very long time, and well, it kind of also hurt me when I was in a certain environment because alien also means unwanted, okay, and I told that to one of the teachers who kind of seemed to understand that. And, she told me that I just have to go on, okay? I don't know how I reacted afterwards, but usually I kind of have a, profoundly mechanized way of being, okay? It's like I have a certain objective, okay? Finish objective, okay? It doesn't matter how, it doesn't matter why necessarily, but, well, it also matters why, but the why is at times less important, but I just have to go on, okay? I just move ahead, okay? Just moving ahead. I even made a little work, okay, in the 11th grade when I had philosophy, and the philosophy teacher was someone who kind of, well, at times made a few jokes, like what's life in the cybernetic dimension and the such, but, they kind of seemed to understand that there was something different. I even made a work, okay, out of my own, interest, and I gave that to the teacher. It kind of had the structure of a little, doctorate degree work. Of course, it was only 10 pages big, but when you speak about something alien and you write 10 pages about it and you also have subchapters, well, that's basically something, okay? And that is how the mind works, okay? But you have to understand that most of the thoughts you have, they're not necessarily your own, okay? Your parents, society, the cartoons, the movies, everything you've been in touch with, okay? And this also includes, for example, the environment you lived in, your neighbors, literally past energies, okay? Not past life energies, okay? Those impulses and urges, they are still there, yes, but past energies, okay, of your life, like you, wherever you go, you have to understand that there are energies influencing you, okay? And you will inevitably pick on any one of those, okay? You will inevitably pick any one of those. Of course, you're not like basically a full sponge, okay? That's simply gonna attract literally all energies around. But you're gonna pick on those because that energy contains certain thought forms. Imagine that you're very unhappy, right? You're pissed off and you're, going around, I don't know, going to your own destination. And the point is, as you go, okay, you're cursing and you're mad and, you're basically bombarding your environments with that vibration, okay? So other people who are at a similar vibration, they might also pick that up, okay? They might also pick that up, and that's not gonna be necessarily good for those. Because, well, when they pick that up, they basically have picked up a bit of you, okay? And this also happens to you. Imagine how many people you have picked up on, right? Because of your general vibrations. You're happy and you're moving around. There definitely have been other people in there that have manifested certain thoughts, okay? That is why when different ideas pop into your mind and you wonder where they come from, well, imagine that in your mind you most likely have the vibration or a bit of, say, I don't know, few thousand other people, okay? You have a bit of them, okay? Now, every bit of this energy is dissipating, but since you are a battery of energy and you draw some of these things, unfortunately, you're also feeding those. That is why shadow work is important, because many of these thoughts, especially the lower vibrational ones, tend to become parasitic. And the reason why most people feel tired all the time is because in their mind they're having so many things they are feeding that, well, that's basically where their energy is going, okay? They're constantly fussing around, they're constantly creating drama in their life, and that drama is also a bit of code, Okay, that code is nothing else than like a pantheon, as I've been presenting it as of late. Why? Because that pantheon, okay, those gods, okay, they are just like gods, okay. Those thoughts that you worship, they are basically like gods, because it's like the old time mentality, okay, where you have to worship the gods and there is nothing more important than that, okay. When people fuss so much about a certain thing, that's how their mind becomes, okay. That's what their mind becomes, a pantheon of thoughts that they must worship because they don't know anything else in return. So when you pay that much attention to the mind, it gives you a certain feeling, okay? And it gives you the impression that you're on top of the world, which you'll never be, irrespective of how famous you are, okay? And I've also made a video a while ago why the master is the slave and why the slave is the master, okay? And I've actually had a nudge yesterday that came to my mind and told me that, hey, you know what? Even in sexual relationships, okay, the so-called mistress is not a mistress at all, okay? The master, the mistress, whatever they want to call themselves, they're just slaves to their own ego. Why? Well, very simple. Because they are a slave of their own ego, okay? The very fact that they call themselves in a certain way means they have identified themselves with that point, okay, with that title. As they have identified with that, this clearly shows that they are just slaves to that concept, okay? Even the people who call themselves the slaves, okay, they are still slaves to their own ego, but they are the masters in a way, because they are the ones who are receiving the master's or the mistress's energy, okay? They just sit there and they are being focused on by the master or the so-called mistress, so therefore they are the ones receiving the energy, okay? So secretly speaking, everything is in reverse. So being the so-called slave is a way in which we can easily rule over other people, because, well, think about it. When you're basically the slave, you're telling the master how to treat you. So in the end, who is the slave and who is the master? So that is exactly how the mind works, okay? It just executes those codes, but just be very mindful that most of those codes don't even belong to you. Most of your thoughts, most of your emotions, they don't belong to you, okay? And as I've been saying in previous videos, only use your mind as a self-diagnosis tool, okay? Because when you look at your mind, okay, when you look at your mind, just let it flow, okay? Do whatever people call as meditation. Just let your thoughts flow. Don't judge any one of those, and simply see what thoughts go through your mind. That's how to realize what you have been feeding your mind with, okay? And when you are comparing yourself, okay, you feel more awakened than the others, okay, that is again egotistical way of thinking, okay? You're a slave of the mind. So you are basically waking up irrespective of what you are doing, but there are a lot of traps to this, because, well, in order to reach a certain level of awareness, you will have to simply fall in certain traps. You might actually be lucky to not fall in them, because you may have experienced those in previous lifetimes, because that experience always comes with you. But, you know, it's gonna function more like from a subconscious aspect, because remember one thing, okay? The reason why you don't remember your previous lives is because nature really cares for you, okay? So many people nowadays don't have, you know, the knowledge, don't have the power to simply handle their current life, okay? They simply fuss and create so much drama about nothing, okay? About the most unimportant things, and they give those things so much importance, okay? Now what this means is, well, besides being slaves to their own mind, they're basically ruining their life. So as things go, they progress so much more into this, okay? And they become vampiric. Their vibration seems to lower, and as it does, they will need other people around them, Because when you have created so many things that you simply cannot support, you will see that there are those people who simply don't do physically anything. They are always tired, but the only thing they do is they always seek for other people, okay? Whatever they do is they always need you to speak, okay? To talk to them. They will always invite you in their quarters, okay? Stay a bit more, stay a bit more, okay? Like, I've had such persons, and I still have one in my own family, okay? Now I took my mother away from her because, again, my mother was creating so much drama, and she was like self-destructing, and the other person has been just a basic parasite her whole life, and always telling other people that she's defenseless, she can't do even the readings for the water consumption, okay? She's inviting other people to do that for her. And that's how narcissists actually are, okay? And what thoughts you have in your mind are reminders of what you have been feeding your mind in the older times, okay? Throughout your life. And what other influences, okay, are over you, okay? Things that probably you didn't notice in the first time. The reason why they pop into your mind is because they want to be liberated. So you just have to let them flow out. No judgment, no nothing, no impulse to pull them back, because the mind will only want to pull them back because it's an extra weapon to screw you around. As I said, the greatest fear of your mind is to simply, is that of realizing that you don't need it. Because you don't need the mind. Think about it. Life in our human body is represented through 114 chakras. The mind is represented by only 3 of those chakras, which are also the physical chakras, okay? Basically the chakras of the physical body, okay? So, not that they would be physical, okay, but they are in a certain way physical because energy is also physical. It has multiple layers of physicality, but again, yes, it is a bit more subtle. But the point is, you can still see it, you can still hear it, you can still feel it, okay? You can feel, for example, certain aspects of radiation, okay? You can feel on your skin the radiation of the sun, okay? You can feel, or some people can feel the radiation popping out of machines, for example. You can see the light they emit, okay? Light is a form of radiation, which is a form of energy. So, just use the mind as a self-diagnosis, okay? So the mind can be used, the mind is just a tool, okay? It's of little importance whether, you use it in good ways, ways that can uplift you, or, in ways that will lead to your downfall, okay? It is just a tool. How you use it, it's up to you. So use your mind only as a self-diagnosis tool, okay? Because it's the best thing that will show you what you have been feeding yourself with. What school has been feeding you, what society has been feeding your mind, and how you feed your mind is basically through everything. What energies are around you, what energies are in your environment, what energies are in your parents, what thought forms and programming they have been giving you, what thought forms and programming school has been giving you, society, the news, the movies you've been listening and hearing and seeing, the music you've been hearing and seeing, okay? Everything has a certain impact on you. Everything that you hear on the streets, okay? It has a certain impact because our minds are untrained. No one trains you how to make use of the awesomeness of your mind. And this also is the one of your emotions, okay? Because when you react to something, you're basically giving control over it, okay? If someone angers you, if someone pisses you off, they control you. Because when you react to something, you're submitting your power to that, okay? And that's how many people are. So you have to understand that urges and impulses are just another way of your mind to simply control you, okay? Because when you feel an urge, you're acting subconsciously. You're acting on an impulse, okay? Impulses will always exist within us because they are in the nature's elements, which we have in our DNA, which we have in each and every one of our cells, okay? These natural elements Okay, they have their own natural impulses. These urges are just simple manifestations of their being alive, okay, of their existing. So in order to awaken, what awakening means is you're basically transcending these urges, you're transcending your mind, because your mind is only represented by three chakras. If that's how you want to experience life, well, there is no problem regarding it. But people and ancient awakened masters have been saying that if you want to live a life and be fulfilled, you need exactly 21 chakras, okay, to be balanced. Okay, you need at least 21 chakras. Okay, then the more you balance, well, you're going to experience and open yourself to more and more, dimensions. Okay, now these other dimensions don't necessarily mean they are superior. Okay, because so many people fall for this trap that they are awakening, they're having so many ideas, but again, they are falling constantly to the mind, okay, to the ego. They have the impression that if they have dreams, they feel prophetic, because those dreams, they are always products of the mind. Your dreams, in almost all situations, except a very few, let's say, more intricate ones, but in almost all situations, what your dreams are telling you is basically karma or memories or thoughts that have been liberated from you, okay? Because that's another part of spirituality, liberating your mind, okay, from all sorts of bondages, okay? Because a thought form is basically a bondage. When you give meaning to something, okay, you just minimize yourself, and well, you also minimize that because you can perceive that something in a greater way, but you're only limiting yourself to the three chakras of the mind, and you want that sense of power, okay? Because the sense of power, okay, is the Manipura, right? The third chakra. That sense of power doesn't serve you, because if you want to live only in that chakra, it's not gonna be good, because the only thing you'll be looking for is control, okay? But basically what you're looking for through that is to be abused, okay? Because when you look for control, you're looking for it outwards, always, okay? When you look for control, it's always outways, okay? Outwards. There is no such thing as internal control, because there is no such thing as control. When you learn how to simply flow, how to accept life the way it is, that is a kind of a control, but it's not a compulsive control, okay? Any sort of compulsive control only comes from the mind, okay? And it comes from the mind because the mind only seeks the idea of comfort, okay, the comfort zone, and that's how animals work, because animals are all bent on their survival. The reason why the human needs animals is because animals are so much more perceptive, okay? Animals are more perceptive than us, mainly because they are only focused on survival. So it's obvious that they will be much better than us in terms of survival, right? The man needs the dog because the dog, even when they sleep, their senses are acute. They can sense danger even when they are asleep, right? So in terms of animals, okay, the idea of comfort, okay, and well, the idea of security, okay, these two are contrasting, because you cannot have comfort and security, okay, because animals can never have security, okay, or safety, because they're always on the prowl, okay? There is always danger on the prowl, so they are always on the prowl to find any hints towards dangers, so that they can simply react to those and save themselves, right? And that's how most of the people actually live. Society only teaches you to be in survival mode. You're always afraid of your teacher that they're gonna give you a low mark. You're always afraid that you'll be losing your job. There are all sorts of these psychological dangers, okay, that threaten your security, okay? And animals, for example, they can never find security because danger is always everywhere, okay? There is always something that can pop up, okay? The only comfort they can have, okay, is that of a satiated belly. Because, again, sooner or later they will have to eat something, and as they eat, okay, they have a satiated belly, so that's the kind of the only comfort they can enjoy. That's the same with so many people. One of the reasons why they indulge, they overindulge in eating is, because of the comfort it gives. Okay, it's another one of the mind's distractions. So awakening is a process in which you simply bypass these things. Okay, when you are awakened, okay, I can present myself as an example, but I don't know necessarily how awakened I am, because that's one of the points, okay? When you awaken, meaning is instantly of no use to you, just like it is to me. I can simply watch the things around without necessarily giving them any meaning. It's kind of always been like this to me, okay? And sure, your mind can screw over you and, you can think about this or you can believe this, but again, belief is a part of the mind, okay? Because anything that you haven't experienced, okay, it's just a belief if you accept it, because you don't have any understanding of it, you don't have any experience of it, okay? So when you say you understand something, why do you think it's called under? Okay, you understand it because you are technically below it, okay? You are below it because you haven't experienced it, so you can only accept that idea, okay? And many people usually accept ideas because they make a certain sense, okay? But the sense is only needed to the mind, not to you. You're playing a psychiatry game in which, you're ceding your power to the mind, okay? You're pretending that you are defenseless, and well, you're basically allowing the mind, the subconscious mind, to simply hold the control over you. So you're basically allowing circumstances to take hold of you. When you allow circumstances to take hold of you, all sort of things will happen and you'll have so much less control over those, okay? Control, again, seeking this idea of control, again, is something of the mind, because only the mind seeks to control, because everything the mind cannot fathom, everything the mind cannot understand, it is deadly to it, okay? It cannot accept anything that it cannot understand. Why do you think there are these people nowadays, that they're doing nothing else than spending millions, if not even billions of dollars on research? And they're proving certain things about the mind, about the body, about energy levels and the such, and dimensions of the mind that, ancient minds, right, awakened people have been talking about for like thousands of years before. Okay, but these people are so slaves of the mind that they need that. They constantly seek for validation and confirmation because that's an aspect of the mind. The mind will always look for validation. The mind will always look for confirmation, because if you call to the mind, you don't have trust in yourself. When you don't trust in yourself, well, that's a big problem, because that's when you open up, and that's basically how the entire society is. All the people simply open up because, well, they don't trust themselves. So all this being said, hopefully this video was a bit enlightening, let's say, and gave you a sense of, understanding over yourself, because I'm not interested in cuddling your mind with knowledge. I can do that, but I'm interested in triggering your curiosity and making you want to, or better said, feed, because wanting is again another mental aspect, and naturally tend towards expanding your own self-awareness, okay, becoming more knowledgeable of who you basically are, not what society made you think you are. So all this being said, keep up the good work, take care of yourselves, and well, stay introspective, stay awesome, take care of yourselves and the others. Ferenc on board, signing out.